Whenever I hit a local privately owned tackle shop, well, it is more frenzy than the time a raccoon broke into my rod locker. It is all I can do to get the SLR camera turned on to try to capture a little bit of what I am seeing in real time. And if you've watched recent videos, you know that often that does not go to plan. Case in point, my recent trip up to Trombley's Bait and Tackle in Orillia, Ontario, Canada, when I forgot to take off the polarizing lens on my camera, which made everything like super dark. Or the time I hit a unnamed tackle shop, filmed for about an hour and a half, only to get home and realize that I had no audio. By the way, I'm going to be going back to that place in about 3 weeks to redo that whole episode. But if I can get into a local tackle shop and get out the door with a video for you guys, I'm usually pretty happy with the outcome. However, what you probably don't see on the camera is that I rarely walk out of one of those tackle shops empty-handed. And I realize I kind of do a really not great job of showing you guys what I have purchased at those shops. So today is going to be the first of a little mini-series on the Retro BASSIN show, looking at some, well, not so recent tackle hauls that I've had at some local shops. Cast back to last Thanksgiving, I was back in Annapolis, Maryland, and I did a fun little episode on my favorite local tackle shop, ANGLER'S Sports Center in Annapolis. Well, I walked out with a ton of gear, and I never actually really filmed it. So today on Retro BASSIN, we're going to be looking at some of the Maryland-made baits that I picked up in that trip to ANGLER'S. And yes, these are super hard baits to find outside of the area, but I have no doubt they can catch fish where you live. Stick around.
Retro BASSIN, kicking some ass and wearing rayon jackets. Thinking about Bill Dance, watching these fish prance through my Ray-Ban glasses. Ain't nothing better than 40-year-old lures coming off of Zepco 33. Out on the bass boat, making beer cans float, doing some trespassing. Fishing it old school, this old stuff rules. Welcome to Retro BASSIN.
Welcome to Retro BASSIN. Thanks for tuning in here, guys. And by the way, if you want to stick around till the end of the video, I have so much tackle. I'm actually kind of unloading some of it, and I'm going to have a sort of Maryland starter pack of some baits that I'm going to list for $1 plus shipping. I'll drop a link to that eBay listing down below, but if you stick around to the end of the video, I'll show you what we have in store for that. But without further ado, let's get into some of the baits and other stuff that I picked up from ANGLER'S. So here is the iconic, really glorious icon of ANGLER'S Sports Center. And what's interesting is that even though this tackle shop these days is pretty much 100% not offshore baits, they've got some stuff, but it used to be the premier stop all the way to Ocean City, Maryland. Thus, they had the white marlin. So this is the basically sign that I remember as a kiddo. They've since changed it to something that's a little bit more indicative of the kind of fish you catch after going to ANGLER'S, and that is the old striped bass. So a couple great stickers. They've got a lot of great stickers and shirts there. This is also one of my favorites, of which I have a couple of. So what was really cool about that stop to ANGLER'S was some of the local baits, some of which I was familiar with, some of which not so much. So I scooped up a bunch of those. A lot of them I still have in the package, and I will show you guys. First things first, since I lived in Maryland, snakeheads have become a huge part of the fishery, and there's a lot of customized lures and even rods and reels toward fishing for snakeheads. So here is a cool company called Octane, and they have got some really sweet snakehead baits. So this one's super cool. This one was, by the way, $11.99 when I picked it up. I got one in the old yeller and then one in the black. And we'll go ahead and open up the yellow one and take a look at this thing. I don't really do enough frog fishing, to be honest with you, but I'm going to keep at least one of these baits in my little stash, and I'm probably going to try to give it a dangle at some point. What's so cool and so unique about this is it looks like a little duckling. I don't think I've seen some other bird-shaped frogs out there. The flipping the bird model, which I'm actually going to pick up a few of, but I've never seen one that actually looks like a duck. So this one has a really cool double hook, almost looks sort of Japanese in nature, just really, really tight, super sharp. And check out that little sort of tail weight. I promise you this thing casts like a bullet, and I've got a feeling it is really good at walking the dog. So that is the first topwater from High Octane. This is, again, supposed to be a snakehead bait. However, come on. You know a largemouth would absolutely crush that off the top of some vegetation. Next one from High Octane I've got is this. This is a poppin' frog. I think it's called Popzilla. Here's the package. And you do see a snakehead on there as well as the old Maryland flag in the logo. And let's see what we got here. So this is kind of a unique looking frog. So it is a totally hollow frog. Definitely has sort of a Godzilla pattern to it, doesn't it? Same nice double hooks. And I'm assuming the same weight on the tail. But check out the nose of that. That's pretty cool. You don't see a whole lot of popping frogs these days. I think most people probably prefer a walking frog, but I always like the popping frog. And I love the eyes on this one. And it looks like, I think it's got just one set of skirt appendages going through the back of it. And that one is called Popzilla, both from High Octane Baits. And I think this one is actually $9.99 at Anglers. Jigging for striped bass in the Chesapeake has been huge, especially in recent years, and they have a ton of tackle specialized for that. However, I have no doubt that this same tackle and lures could also work for landlocked striped bass as well as largemouth in certain applications. So first off, here is a pack of Coach jig heads that I picked up. It says Rich Jenkins, and these are 1/4 ounce. And I had to get these specifically for the color, and check it out. We're getting up to Halloween time, and I picked up some candy corn for the kiddos, and look at that. There is a candy corn colored jig head. So that is a really good looking little jig head. That's you could probably throw a lot of different baits on that. It's got a nice high quality hook on it. But I just love that candy corn paint job. So this pack here, it is 4 of these different jig heads, and it's for $7.99. And again, this is from Coach Jig Heads. Now, if you have a jig head, you actually need a soft plastic for that. And one of the, if not the most popular soft plastic in the area is this. These are called BKDs, Bass Candy Delights. And it's sort of a hybrid in between, I would say, a Zoom Super Fluke and a Lunker City Finesse Fish. I've actually got 2 packs of these. One in this color, which is called Avocado. Sort of old school yellow with a little bit of pumpkin with red fleck. As well as this one, which is just called Glitter. So what does it say about old BKD lures? It is the durable soft plastic lure made in the USA. And this one comes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them for $5.29, which is a little bit more than $1 a bait, but these things are pretty durable. I'll rip this thing open and give you guys a closer look at this BKD. And check out that thing. So yeah, that's very similar, I would say, in shape to a Zoom Super Fluke, but look at how narrow that bait is. So a much, much thinner bait. So this is really meant to be jigged for the most part. I don't know a ton of folks who are fishing this thing weightless. However, I could be tempted to do so. It does have a little belly slit in the bottom. And a tail that's actually just a little bit thicker. I've got a feeling that probably has some pretty good vibration. So looking at this BKD, yeah, this could catch a lot of things. This would definitely catch striped bass in lakes, but also you could certainly rig this thing up for largemouth, especially this time of year when they're chasing shad. All right, another company that I discovered on that trip to Anglers was Jigs. This is also, I believe, a local-ish company, and they've got a number of different jig heads and also little jigging spoons like this. This is definitely one I'm going to hang on to. This is a 1/2 ounce 2/0 hook little bait called the Rain Minnow. And look at that thing. That is a super cool looking little chunk of lead for sure. Sort of reminds me of a, I would say a bomber slab spoon. I know Cotton Cordell also had one as well, which they actually reintroduced. But this is a good looking little bait with a single hook on it. And yeah, I actually know a number of lakes where the largemouth school, and this is actually the perfect size bait for them. So I picked up this one, which is the Rain Minnow. And then I also picked up this 1/2 ounce deal. This one is called the Bunker Spoon Bay Minnow. But what I love about these baits is for a 1/2 ounce bait, that thing has a really, really tiny profile. And also I like this one because it's got a mixture of, it's not just silver, it's silver and white. So these are both guys that I'm gonna probably keep in my tackle box because I do fish some lakes that have some schooling bass. And also from GI Jigs, I picked up this. This is a 2-pack of jig heads. These are 1/4 ounce 3/0 hook. Everyone makes jig heads, but what I love about these is check out that walleye eye. I love that. Most folks don't have an eye that kind of glows like that. Everyone just can't resist putting that black dot in there. But I kind of like a fish eye that looks like that. So that's one I'm also going to hang on to and probably rig up with maybe the pack of BKDs that I don't sell. All right, of all the baits that I uncovered in Maryland, the coolest discovery for me is a local legend of a bait known simply as Captain Bert's Perch Hounder. This is that bait, and this is one of the sickest looking little micro spinner baits you have ever seen. This thing I think is mostly designed for catching white perch. However, it's one of those will catch anything that swims kinda baits. I've got it in a number of different colors, and I will show you some of these in the package and also out of the package. So first off, I'll go through the package ones that I've got and talk about some of the really cool colors. This one, I had to buy this because it says old school. Classic red head with white and a silver blade. Got this one called Crab Fat, and if you've ever had a good old Maryland crab, you know that color looks familiar. Here's a really cool one. It's a bucktail. It's called Halloween, and I would totally throw that one. That's a really good looking one. And by the way, so these are all $5.99 at Anglers. Here's one called Loose Change. Nice silver on silver, on silver. Silver blade, silver head, silver skirt. Here's another old school looking color called Bus Stop. Love that old school red and yellow. Sort of a coleslaw pattern here. It's called Sassy Slaw, and it's actually got a white painted blade, which I dig, and that coleslaw style skirt, which of course is chartreuse, orange, and white. Then they also have some named after local rivers. This one is called the West River Witch, I believe. Yep. A nice black head with a gold blade and a chartreuse skirt. I actually would love that one for some dingy water. But this is the one that I think is the #1 seller there at Anglers. And this one I believe is called Magathy Money. It is a gold on gold on gold. Gold blade, gold head, gold skirt. Really good for some stained water. And the rivers that we fish there, Magathy and the Severn, yeah, they're not the clearest rivers, so this color totally makes sense there. I could not resist opening up a few of these, and I will show you one I've got right here. So this is that Bus Stop Perch Hounder that I've got out of the package. And this thing, when I first looked at it, really reminds me of an OG Bomber Bushwhacker spinnerbait. I've actually got one of those that do a little side-by-side. But a super compact spinner, nice little Colorado blade, ball bearing swivel, which you usually don't get in really small spinners like this. Nice cone-shaped head and a really heavy head. This is a 1/4 ounce. This is a nice little deep runner. Tied on skirt. That skirt's not going to come off. And into a finessey little Gamakatsu hook. Check out that neat little hook. So that thing is a killer bait. I can totally see me crushing some pond largemouth bass with this, as well as bluegills. Even honestly some bigger lakes if the fish are on a smaller bite. So that's bus stop. Here is a crab fat that I just could not resist opening up. And then here is another one. I forget what this is. It's got some sort of Halloween name, I think, but really cool looking color as well. I did mention this thing reminds me of an old school bomber bait. I think it's called the Bushwhacker, or the mini Bushwhacker actually. And here is a mini Bushwhacker out of the package, side by side with the perch hounder. Now, this is an ultralight bait. This perch hounder is not necessarily an ultralight. At a 1/4 ounce, you could actually probably throw this pretty comfortably on bait casting gear. But as far as the profile goes, very similar. Got a feeling the old bomber fish is a lot shallower. It's actually got a bigger blade as well. But you sort of get an idea of how this perch hounder stacks up. It is really a problem that I have. I cannot step into a local tackle shop without walking out with bags full of gear. So, in an effort to sort of thin the herd a little bit, I'm going to list a special sort of Maryland starter pack that I picked up from Anglers over on eBay. We'll start the bidding off at $1. The winner will just pick up shipping, and I will go ahead and drop the link to that down below in the video description. But if you head on over to eBay and type in Retro Bassin, my page should pop up. And before we wrap up, one more plug for the day. You might notice I am rocking a Retro Bassin pop-in hat. If you head on over to retrobassintackle.com, you can check out our selection of hats, decals, logo lures, and very exclusive JDM baits as well. In the meantime, if you guys are looking for some more old school tackle, you can click right here. Otherwise, I'll see you right back here. And until then, keep that carpet side up. And definitely, fish it old school.
Fishing it old school, this old stuff rules. Welcome to Retro Bassin.